Wrong number, wrong party, wrong wife. It was a Tuesday evening when Lisa dropped the warning like she was discussing the weather. I was sprawled on our couch, still wearing my work clothes, the familiar smell of electrical tape and copper wire clinging to my shirt. Union electrician life meant long days, dirty hands, and the kind of tired that settles into your bones like concrete. "Ryan," she said, not looking up from her phone, fingers dancing across the screen in that way that had become her default position. "I need to tell you something about the office party Friday." I glanced over at her, noting how she'd positioned herself at the far end of the couch, like she was preparing for distance. 7 years of marriage teaches you to read these signals, even when you don't want to. The space between us felt wider than just cushions and throw pillows. "What about it?" I asked, reaching for the remote. We'd talked about the party before. Her company, Fairfax Construction Supply, was celebrating some big quarterly numbers. I'd been planning to go, maybe meet some of the people she worked with, put faces to the names she mentioned during dinner conversations that had become increasingly one-sided. "Alex is going to be there," she paused, finally looking at me. "My ex, Alex Brenner, from before we met. He's the new sales director." The way she said his name, with just a little too much emphasis, like she was testing how it sounded out loud. That should have been my first clue, but I was tired, focused on finding something to watch, not reading between lines I didn't know existed yet. "Okay," I said. So I think it would be better if you didn't come." She shifted, tucking her legs under her in a way that seemed calculated to look casual. "You know how weird these things can get with exes around. I don't want any drama at a work function." I set the remote down, giving her my full attention now. Something in her tone had shifted, like a circuit that wasn't carrying the load it was supposed to. "Drama? What kind of drama would there be?" "We're married, Lisa. He's your ex. Past tense." She laughed, but it sounded forced, like a light bulb flickering before it burns out. I know. It's just, Alex can be intense, jealous type. I don't want him making things uncomfortable for everyone, especially you." Something about the way she framed it bothered me. Like I was the problem that needed to be managed, not him. Like my presence would somehow cause issues, rather than his behavior being the thing that needed addressing. If he's the problem, why not just avoid him yourself? It's a big party, right? "It's not that simple. He's sales director now. I have to work with him. We have to maintain professional relationships." She was back to her phone, typing rapidly. The conversation was clearly over in her mind, even though it had just started for me. "Trust me, it's easier this way." I watched her for a moment, noting how her attention was already divided again. 7 years, and lately it felt like I was competing with her phone for basic conversation. The blue glow from the screen lit up her face in a way that made her look like a stranger. "All right," I said finally, "if that's what you want." She smiled then, the first genuine expression I'd seen all evening. "Thanks for understanding. I'll just go, show my face, leave early, won't even be a late night." But here's the thing about being an electrician. You learn to notice details other people miss. Circuits that don't add up when you check the load calculations. Connections that look right on the surface but feel wrong when you test them with a multimeter. And Lisa's explanation felt wrong in that same way, like a wire that's carrying more current than it's rated for. Fairfax Construction Supply. I knew that building better than most people knew their own homes. Donahue Electric, the company I'd worked for since I got out of my apprenticeship, had wired their major expansion 3 years ago. I'd personally run conduit through their executive offices, installed the electrical panels for their conference rooms, troubleshot their HVAC integration. Hell, I still had the building schematics in my truck from when we'd done the follow-up work last year, updating their emergency lighting systems. That night, after Lisa went to bed early, claiming she needed to rest up for a busy week, I sat at my kitchen table with a beer and my laptop, started doing what any reasonable person would do when something doesn't add up in their field. I researched the problem. Alex Brenner, sales director at Fairfax Construction Supply. LinkedIn showed he'd been hired 8 months ago, not 6 like I'd initially thought. Before that, he'd worked for a competitor in Richmond, Sterling Building Materials. The timeline was more interesting than I'd expected. 8 months ago was right around when Lisa started working later, taking more networking dinners, mentioning how competitive her industry was getting, how important FaceTime with management had become. But what really caught my attention was the company's organizational chart. Alex Brenner didn't just supervise sales. He oversaw procurement relationships, vendor management, and strategic partnerships. In other words, he had direct influence over which electrical contractors got the big jobs. Companies like Donahue Electric depended on relationships with places like Fairfax Construction Supply. The more I dug, the more the connections became clear. Lisa worked in HR, specifically vendor relations and contractor compliance. She would have been involved in Alex's hiring process. She would have worked directly with him on updating contractor agreements, performance reviews, safety compliance standards. Their professional relationship wasn't just about working in the same building. They were collaborating on decisions that could make or break small businesses like the one that employed me. I finished my beer and made a decision that felt as natural as checking a breaker box when the lights go out. If Lisa didn't want me at the party, fine. But there was no law against an electrician doing routine maintenance on a building where his company held an active service contract. The next morning, I called my foreman, Carlos Rivera, 20-year union vet, built like a linebacker, absolutely zero tolerance for bullshit from anyone, contractors, customers, or coworkers. I need a favor, I told him over coffee at Mel's Diner, our usual spot before the morning job assignments. What kind of favor? Carlos knew me well enough to be suspicious when I started conversations like that. He'd seen too many good electricians make bad decisions over relationship problems. Remember the Fairfax Construction Supply job? The electrical work we did on their renovation and the follow-up last year? Yeah, what about it? That was clean work, up to code, no callbacks. I think there might be some safety issues developing with the installation. Power fluctuations, potential fire hazards. Might need an emergency inspection to verify everything's still running within specifications. Carlos raised an eyebrow and set down his coffee cup. Emergency inspection on a Friday evening during their office party? Electrical problems don't keep business hours, I said, meeting his eyes. And neither do safety violations. If there's a problem with our installation and something happens, the liability falls on Donahue Electric. He studied me for a long moment. Carlos had been married for 25 years to the same woman, had seen enough relationship drama in the union to recognize the signs when a man's personal life was about to intersect with his professional responsibilities. This wouldn't have anything to do with your wife working there, would it? It has to do with making sure the electrical systems in that building are up to code and functioning safely, I said carefully. Everything else is secondary to worker safety and code compliance. Carlos nodded slowly, understanding the distinction I was making. I'll make the calls to get you authorization. But Ryan, whatever you find in there, whatever this is really about, you handle it clean. No union drama, no headlines, no liability for the company. We do this by the book, professional standards only. Absolutely by the book, I agreed. Professional standards all the way. Friday morning, Lisa left early for work, claiming she needed to help set up for the party and finish some quarterly reports. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, something that probably cost more than my weekly take-home pay after taxes and union dues. Her hair was done professionally. She'd gotten up extra early to hit the salon, and her makeup was perfect, applied with the kind of care usually reserved for special occasions. She looked beautiful, but also like she was getting ready for something more important than a routine office party celebrating quarterly sales figures. I'll probably be late, she said, not meeting my eyes as she checked her appearance one final time in the hallway mirror. These things tend to run long when management gets involved. No problem, I'll probably be working late anyway. Got an emergency call about some electrical issues that need immediate attention. She paused at the door, car keys already in her hand. Electrical issues where? Nothing major, just some routine safety verification, making sure all our installations are running within specification. I kept my voice neutral, professional. Have fun at your party. After she left, I took a moment to sit in the silence of our house. 7 years of marriage, and it felt like we'd been gradually rewiring our relationship with cheaper and cheaper components until the whole system was running on the edge of failure. But today, I was going to run a proper diagnostic. I loaded my truck with the tools I'd need for legitimate electrical work: voltage tester, digital multimeter, circuit analyzer, thermal imaging camera for checking connection heat levels. But I also included the portable surveillance equipment Danny Walsh had loaned me. Danny ran security installations on the side, high-end systems for executives who'd made enemies in their climb to the top. The cameras were professional grade, tiny, wireless, completely undetectable when properly installed in electrical junction boxes. The building directory listed the party in conference room A on the executive floor. I knew exactly where that was. I'd installed the dimmer controls and emergency lighting systems myself. More importantly, I knew the location of every electrical access panel, every maintenance corridor, every blind spot in the building's security coverage. When you wire a building from the ground up, it becomes part of your mental blueprint. I arrived at 3 p.m., well before the party was scheduled to start, but late enough that most employees would be focused on wrapping up their work week. Used my master access card. Donahue Electric maintained the service contract for emergency repairs, which meant 24/7 building access for safety issues. The beauty of being an electrician is institutional invisibility. People see the uniform, the tool belt, the clipboard with official work orders, and their brains just edit you out of the scene. You're part of the building's infrastructure, no more noteworthy than the air conditioning or the plumbing. Security guards nod and go back to their monitors. Office workers step aside in hallways and continue their conversations like you're not there. I started with completely legitimate work, actually running diagnostics on the electrical panels, testing connections, documenting load readings on all the circuits I'd installed 3 years earlier. If anyone asked questions, I had hours of genuine safety inspection data to back up my presence. The thermal imaging showed everything running clean, no hot spots indicating failing connections, no signs of the electrical problems that could justify an emergency call. But while I worked, I was also installing Danny's surveillance equipment. The first camera went into a junction box with a clear view of conference room A's main entrance. The second was positioned in an electrical closet overlooking the executive parking area, where I could monitor who arrived and when. The third camera was the most important, installed in an access panel near the private offices, with a clear sight line down the hallway where any private meetings would take place. The installation took me 3 hours of careful, methodical work. By 6 p.m., I was back in my truck in the visitor parking area, laptop open, watching 3 different camera feeds while monitoring the building's electrical systems through the remote diagnostic portal. Perfect operational cover. If security asked, I was running extended diagnostic tests on the main power grid to verify system stability. As I waited, I thought about the conversation with Lisa the night before. Not just what she'd said, but how she'd said it. The timing, the body language, the way she'd framed the situation. In electrical work, you learn that the problem is rarely where the customer thinks it is. They complain about a flickering light, but the real issue is usually a loose connection 3 circuits away. You have to trace the whole system to find the fault. The party started at 7 p.m. sharp. I watched Lisa arrive in her Toyota, parking in her usual spot near the employee entrance. But she didn't go inside immediately. Instead, she sat in her car for several minutes, checking her phone, adjusting her makeup in the mirror, taking deep breaths like she was preparing for something more challenging than small talk with coworkers. 30 minutes later, a silver BMW pulled into one of the reserved executive parking spaces. Alex Brenner stepped out, and even through the security camera feed, I could see what Lisa meant about him being intense. He moved with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you're important, scanning the parking lot before heading inside like he was surveying his territory. But here's what was interesting. He didn't park in the visitor spaces or even the general management area. He parked in a space marked Sales Director, like someone who belonged there, someone who'd been planning this evening for a while. The party was in full swing by 8 p.m. Through the conference room camera, I could see Lisa mingling, laughing at the right moments, playing the part of the dedicated employee celebrating another successful quarter. But I was watching her positioning, her sight lines, the way she kept checking her watch and glancing toward the hallway. She was waiting for something. Or someone. At 8:45, she stepped away from the main group, walking toward the ladies' room with the kind of casual purpose that looked natural unless you were specifically watching for it. The hallway camera picked her up 2 minutes later, but she wasn't heading back to the party. Instead, she was walking purposefully toward the executive office area, checking over her shoulder to make sure no one was following. Alex appeared in the same hallway 30 seconds later, moving with the same deliberate casualness. They met near the executive conference room, the one with the soundproof walls and electronic locks that I'd wired during the renovation. Their greeting wasn't the awkward interaction between exes trying to keep things professional. This was practiced, familiar, intimate. This was ongoing. I sat in my truck, watching my wife of 7 years embrace another man with the kind of passion she hadn't shown me in months. Watch them disappear into the conference room with the understanding that comes from routine, from knowing exactly where they could be alone without interruption. The cameras were good enough to capture audio through the electronic door sensors. I could hear fragments of their conversation through the building's security system, words that confirmed what the video had already made clear. "I've been thinking about you all week. When can we stop pretending? He doesn't suspect anything." I sat there for a long moment, processing what I was seeing and hearing. In electrical work, when you find a dangerous situation, you have two choices. You can try to patch it temporarily and hope it holds, or you can shut down the system completely and rewire it properly. Temporary fixes are cheaper in the short term, but they always fail eventually, usually when you least expect it. Lisa had made her choice months ago. She'd chosen to rewire our marriage with deception, to run our relationship on circuits that couldn't handle the load she was putting on them. Now the system was failing, exactly the way any electrician would predict. But here's the difference between an electrical emergency and a personal one. When circuits fail, they give you warning signs first. Flickering lights, warm outlets, the smell of burning insulation. I'd been seeing those warning signs for months and ignoring them, hoping the problem would fix itself. It was time to shut down the system completely. I made 3 phone calls from my truck, each one as methodical as testing a circuit board. The first was to Paul Hendricks, my attorney. We'd gone to high school together, and he'd handled my business paperwork when I started doing side contracting work. More importantly, he was one of the few lawyers I knew who understood that blue-collar guys don't have unlimited budgets for legal drama. "Paul, I need some advice. Not hypothetical this time. If someone discovered their spouse was having an affair, what would be the smartest way to protect themselves legally?" There was a pause. Paul knew me well enough to hear the difference between casual questions and serious problems. "Ryan, what's going on?" I'm sitting in a parking lot watching my wife of 7 years with her boss. They're not discussing quarterly reports. "Jesus, I'm sorry, man. Where are you right now?" "Outside her building. I've got video documentation, audio recordings, timestamps, the whole thing. What I need to know is how to handle this without destroying my life in the process." First thing, don't confront them tonight. Don't do anything emotional, document everything you can, but keep it legal. Second, we need to talk about your assets. Did you guys ever sign a prenup? I almost smiled at that. "Yeah, we did. Vegas wedding, remember? You told me to get everything documented even though we were drunk and thought we were being spontaneous. Thank God you listened. That prenup is your insurance policy. Meet me Monday morning, first thing. Don't say anything to Lisa until we've reviewed your position. Can you do that?" "I can do that." The second call was to Carlos. "I'm going to need some time off next week. Personal matters." "The electrical inspection turn up problems?" "You could say that. Different kind of problems than I expected." Carlos was quiet for a moment. In the union, personal problems were handled the same way as workplace injuries. You took care of your own, no questions asked, no judgment passed. "Whatever you need, brother. And Ryan, if you need character references, professional recommendations, anything like that, the whole crew's got your back." "Thanks, Carlos. That means more than you know." The third call was to Danny Walsh. "I need to return your equipment tonight, and I might need some advice about home security systems. Seems like my current setup isn't as secure as I thought." "Say no more. Meet me at the shop in an hour. We'll get you set up properly." By 10 p.m., I was back home. Surveillance equipment returned, evidence backed up to multiple secure locations, and plans in motion. Lisa's car wasn't in the driveway, which wasn't surprising given what I'd witnessed. I sat in my kitchen with a beer and my laptop, reviewing the video footage, taking notes, building a timeline that would make sense to a divorce attorney. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing how long it had been going on. Looking back through the lens of what I now knew, I could see the pattern, the late nights, the new clothes, the sudden interest in networking events, and professional development. The way she'd started talking about her job like it was the most important thing in her life, more important than our marriage, certainly more important than my career. She came home at 11:45, looking flushed and disheveled. Hair slightly messed up despite obvious attempts to fix it, lipstick completely gone, dress wrinkled in places that told their own story. She moved through the house like she was trying not to wake me, even though the kitchen light was clearly on. "How was the party?" I asked from the table. She jumped, genuinely startled. "Oh, it was fine. Boring, actually. Left as soon as I could without being rude." "Really? That's interesting." "What's interesting?" "Well, I had to run diagnostics on your building's electrical system tonight. Emergency safety inspection. Saw your car in the parking lot until pretty late for someone who left early." I watched her face carefully, saw the moment of panic before she forced herself to look calm. It was like watching a fuse blow in slow motion. "You were at my building? Why didn't you come find me?" "Routine maintenance, power grid analysis. Nothing that would interest the party crowd." I took a sip of my beer, keeping my voice conversational. "Funny thing though, kept seeing this silver BMW in the executive parking area. Same one that was there when you arrived, same one that was still there when you finally left." She was quiet for a long moment, processing, calculating. I could almost hear the gears turning as she tried to figure out how much I knew, how much I was guessing. "Must have been Alex's car. He probably stayed late to network with the regional managers." "Probably," I agreed. "Good thing there wasn't any drama with the ex-boyfriend situation. Sounds like you handled it very professionally." "Yeah," she said, her voice smaller now. "Very professional." That night, I lay in bed listening to her shower for the second time that evening, thinking about electrical systems and how they're designed. Every circuit has a maximum load capacity. Push too much current through a wire that's not rated for it, and eventually something burns out. Sometimes it's just a fuse, a small component designed to fail to protect the larger system. Sometimes the whole thing goes up in flames. Our marriage had been running over capacity for months. Lisa had been drawing more power than our relationship was designed to handle, and I'd been the fuse, absorbing the extra load, getting weaker and weaker until something finally gave way. The difference was, I wasn't going to burn out quietly. I was going to shut down the system cleanly, professionally, and permanently. Saturday morning, I called Paul again. "Not hypothetical anymore. I need to file for divorce, and I need to do it right." "What's your timeline?" "I want it clean and fast, no drama, no extended negotiations, just done." "Ryan, if you're sure about this, we can start the paperwork Monday. But once we file, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure. She made her choice months ago. I'm just finally accepting it." Monday morning, while Lisa was at work, probably planning her next professional development session with Alex, I was in Paul's office reviewing documents. The prenup was even better than I'd remembered. Clean separation of assets, no alimony provisions, everything we'd acquired together to be divided equitably. Since we'd kept separate bank accounts and I'd never added her name to the house. Deed, the division would be straightforward. "This is about as clean as these things get," Paul said, reviewing the paperwork. "No kids, clear asset separation, documented infidelity. We can have her served by Wednesday." Wednesday evening, Lisa was served with divorce papers at her office. I know because Danny's security contacts kept me informed about timing. She called me within 10 minutes, her voice shaking with panic and disbelief. "What is this?" "Divorce papers." "Ryan, we need to talk." "About what?" "Your professional relationship with Alex Brenner." Silence on the other end of the line, then very quietly. "You know." "I know. I've known since Friday night. I also know this has been going on for months, not just one evening. I know about the business trips that weren't business trips. I know about the late nights that had nothing to do with quarterly reports. I know about the lies, Lisa. All of them. I can explain everything. No need. Actions explain themselves better than words ever could. You chose him over me, chose deception over honesty, chose your career advancement over our marriage. I'm simply accepting your decision and moving forward accordingly. This is extreme. We can work this out. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. What I want is a wife who doesn't need counseling to treat me with basic respect. What I want is a partner who doesn't lie to my face about office parties while planning affairs with her supervisor. What I want is someone who values our marriage more than her next promotion. Another long silence. I could hear her breathing. Could almost see her trying to figure out how to salvage the situation now that her carefully constructed story had collapsed. "They said you'd be panicking," she said finally, her voice dropping to barely audible. "My friends at work, they said you'd be calling constantly." showing up at the office, making scenes. Your friends at work don't understand electricians very well, do they? We don't panic when systems fail. We diagnose the problem, isolate the faulty components, and fix it properly. How did you find out? Same way I solve any electrical problem. I followed the circuit, tested the connections, found the short in the system. Turns out, being married to a tradesman means you can't hide infrastructure problems indefinitely. I never meant for this to happen. You meant for it to happen every time you chose not to stop it. Every lie, every cover story, every professional networking session that lasted until midnight. You meant all of it. The divorce proceedings moved faster than I'd expected. Lisa tried to fight it initially, claiming the surveillance evidence was inadmissible, that I'd violated workplace privacy laws, that the whole thing was entrapment. But Paul had done his homework. The building maintenance contract gave me legitimate access. The cameras were installed in areas where I had authorized work responsibilities, and everything was documented through proper legal channels. More importantly, Lisa's own actions had created a paper trail that supported the timeline. Credit card charges for restaurants on nights she'd claimed to be working late. Hotel receipts that coincided with supposed business conferences that didn't exist. Company expense reports that showed her and Alex traveling together to vendor meetings that somehow never required any actual vendor contracts. The corporate side of the situation was even more damaging than the personal side. Fairfax Construction Supply had strict policies about relationships between supervisors and subordinates, especially when those relationships involved potential conflicts of interest. Alex, as sales director, had influence over which contractors got preferred vendor status. Lisa, in HR vendor relations, processed those contracts. Their affair wasn't just adultery. It was a violation of corporate ethics policies that could expose the company to liability issues. When the legal department started digging into their professional interactions, they found a pattern of favorable treatment for certain electrical contractors, including several that had connections to Alex's previous employer in Richmond. Within a month, Alex was terminated for ethics violations. Lisa was transferred to a different department and placed on probation, effectively ending any chance of promotion for the foreseeable future. The corporate climbing strategy that had seemed so important had led to professional suicide. Meanwhile, I was building something new. Donahue Electric Solutions started as a side business while I worked out my notice with the original company. Carlos helped me identify potential clients, other union guys who needed electrical work on their own properties, or new contractors looking for reliable subcontractors. The difference between working for someone else and working for yourself is like the difference between being an apprentice and being a journeyman. You stop asking permission and start making decisions. You stop taking orders and start solving problems your way. Danny helped me design a comprehensive security system for the house I'd kept in the divorce. Not because I was paranoid, but because I'd learned the value of seeing what was actually happening rather than just believing what I was told. High-end cameras, motion sensors, remote monitoring capabilities, the kind of system that would prevent anyone from moving through my space without my knowledge. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Lisa at a Home Depot in Falls Church. She was buying basic electrical supplies, outlet covers, wire nuts, simple repair materials. Looked like she was doing her own electrical work now. Probably couldn't afford to hire professionals on her reduced salary and damaged professional reputation. "Ryan," she said, clearly uncomfortable, "how are you doing?" "Good. Business is growing faster than I expected. Just landed a contract for a new medical complex in Arlington. Union referrals have been steady." "That's great, really." She paused, shifting the plastic shopping basket from one hand to the other. "I'm sorry about everything. The way it ended. The way I handled things." "No need to apologize. You taught me something valuable about electrical work that applies to relationships too." "What's that?" "When you find a fault in the system, you have two choices. You can try to patch it with temporary fixes, hope it holds together long enough that it becomes someone else's problem. Or you can shut down the power, identify the real source of the failure, and rebuild the whole circuit with better components." She looked confused, like she was expecting a different kind of conversation. "I don't understand." "I rebuilt my life with better materials, replaced the components that weren't working, installed proper protection systems, upgraded to more reliable connections. Now everything runs smoother, more efficiently, safer." I picked up my supplies, industrial-grade components for a commercial job that would pay more than my old monthly salary, and headed toward the checkout line. Take care of yourself, Lisa, and next time you're thinking about mixing electrical work with relationship advice, remember that shortcuts in either area tend to cause fires. The truth is, people ask me if I regret how everything ended, if I think I was too calculated, too cold, too systematic. They don't understand the electrician mentality. When you work with high voltage every day, you learn that emotion and electricity don't mix well. You stay calm, you follow safety protocols, you solve problems methodically. My marriage had become a dangerous circuit, overloaded and running hot. I could have tried to patch it, ignored the warning signs, hoped it would somehow fix itself. But that's how electrical fires start. Sometimes the safest thing you can do is shut down the system completely, disconnect the power source, and start fresh with components you can trust. 6 months after the divorce, I was sitting in my new office space, a converted garage behind my house that I'd wired myself with the latest commercial-grade electrical systems. Donahue Electric Solutions had grown from a side business to a full operation. 3 full-time employees, all union guys who'd decided to make the jump from working for other people to building something of their own. Carlos had left his foreman position to become my business partner, bringing 20 years of project management experience and a network of contacts that kept us booked solid through the next fiscal quarter. Danny Walsh handled our security installations, which had become surprisingly profitable as more businesses realized the value of proper surveillance systems. The medical complex contract in Arlington had led to 3 more healthcare projects, each one larger than the last. Healthcare facilities require specialized electrical work, backup power systems, surgical lighting, patient monitoring infrastructure. It's complex, demanding work that pays accordingly. The kind of projects that separate professional electrical contractors from handymen with tool belts. That Thursday evening, I was reviewing blueprints for a new urgent care facility when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but something about it seemed familiar. "Ryan, this is Alex Brenner." I set down my coffee and leaned back in my chair. "Alex, that's interesting. How did you get this number?" "I got it from the contractor database. Your company came up for a project I'm working on." "Really? I thought you were in sales, not construction management." "I was. That situation changed after everything came out. I'm working project management now for a smaller firm in Loudoun County. Different industry, fresh start." I waited, letting him fill the silence. In electrical work, you learn that when someone calls you unexpectedly, they usually need something they can't get anywhere else. "Look, I know this is awkward, but I need to ask you something, professional to professional." "Go ahead." "The surveillance setup you used to document everything, that was impressive work. Professional grade, properly installed, legally defensible. I'm wondering if your company handles that kind of installation." I almost laughed. "You want me to install surveillance systems? That's an interesting request coming from you." "I know how it sounds, but I learned something from what happened, and it's not what you might think. You could have destroyed me completely, could have made sure I never worked in this industry again. Instead, you did everything by the book, kept it professional, let the corporate policies handle the consequences. And I respect that. It showed me the difference between revenge and justice, between acting emotional and acting professional. I made mistakes, big ones, but you handled the situation like a craftsman handles a difficult job, clean, thorough, effective." I thought about that for a moment. "What kind of project are you working on?" "Security upgrade for a corporate office building. The management company wants comprehensive surveillance, access control, the works. It's a significant contract, but it requires a contractor with experience in both electrical systems and security installation. And you thought of us. Your work at Fairfax was flawless. The camera placement, the integration with existing electrical systems, the documentation, it was professional level installation. The building engineers were impressed when they reviewed the setup." Over the next week, Carlos and I met with Alex's project management team. The contract was legitimate, a mid-size office complex that wanted to upgrade their security infrastructure to modern standards. The electrical requirements were complex enough to be interesting, and the profit margins were substantial enough to be worthwhile. Working with Alex was surprisingly professional. He'd learned some hard lessons about mixing personal business with professional responsibilities. And he approached every interaction with a kind of careful formality that comes from understanding consequences. No casual conversation, no references to the past, just project specifications and timeline requirements. 3 months later, we completed the installation ahead of schedule and under budget. The client was satisfied enough to recommend us for 2 additional projects, both larger than the original contract. Alex's project management had been competent and thorough, and he'd earned his professional reputation back through consistent, reliable work. At the final walkthrough, he pulled me aside. "I want you to know, I learned something important from you, about how to handle problems when they arise." "What's that?" "When something goes wrong in your personal life, the professional thing to do is to handle it professionally, not to let it become everyone else's problem, not to burn bridges or create drama, just to deal with the situation and move forward. That's good advice for anyone in business." Lisa never understood that. She tried to make our situation everyone else's responsibility, HR's problem, the legal department's problem, your problem. She never took ownership of her choices. I nodded. "How is she doing?" "Last I heard, she was working for a small firm in Frederick. Entry-level position, basically starting over. Turns out, when you damage your professional reputation, it follows you around the industry." 6 months later, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Alex Brenner was marrying someone I'd never heard of, a woman who worked in a completely different industry, with no connections to construction or electrical contracting. The invitation was simple, professional, appropriate. I didn't attend, but I sent a card with congratulations and best wishes. Professional courtesy, nothing more. These days, Donahue Electric Solutions employs 12 people and operates out of a proper commercial facility. We specialize in complex electrical projects, healthcare facilities, data centers, high-security installations, the kind of work that requires expertise, experience, and reliability. I've started dating again, meeting people through normal channels, friends of friends, community events, professional associations. Women who understand that healthy relationships are built on honesty, communication, and mutual respect. No games, no tests, no manipulation disguised as empowerment. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about what might have happened if I'd handled things differently. If I'd confronted Lisa immediately, made a scene at the office party, let my emotions drive my decisions. I do think about it, and here's what I know would have happened. I would have validated that. Emotional responses were acceptable. That drama was normal. That professional boundaries didn't matter when personal feelings got involved. Instead, I demonstrated something different, that problems can be solved systematically, that consequences don't require emotional chaos, that professional behavior produces professional results. Wrong number, wrong party, wrong wife, but the right approach to a difficult situation, executed with the kind of precision that comes from understanding systems, respecting processes, and maintaining professional standards even when personal stakes are high. That's worth more than any office party, any corporate promotion, or any relationship built on deception. These days, my house is properly wired, fully secured, and completely under my control. My business is growing steadily, my reputation is solid, and my personal life is built on foundations that can handle whatever load gets placed on them. And I sleep better at night knowing that all my circuits are running clean, my connections are secure, and my electrical systems are designed to last.